Good Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on this afternoon. We appreciate you hopping on here. We are with Kyle Maring, CEO of Premier Claims this afternoon. Kyle, you are down in Georgia after Hurricane Helene came through there. Absolutely devastating videos and images have come out of this area from Florida to Georgia to South Carolina. Kyle, let's start from the very beginning. Can you walk me through what you've seen and what you've observed on the ground since Hurricane Helene made landfall?
Yeah, so I've covered personally most of the state of Georgia at this point, and into Greenville, South Carolina, all the way down to Valdosta, and it was Cat 2 winds through Augusta, Georgia, over Cat 3 to 4 winds in Vidalia, Cat 4 in Valdosta. It's just been devastated throughout the entire state. It's something like I've never seen before going this far inland.
Now, this is not your first hurricane to work. The aftermath of this hurricane, how does that compare to other hurricanes that you've worked in the past?
It's just so far widespread. Like I said, I mean, it went through Perry, Florida, and then all the way up until Greenville, South Carolina. And Augusta, Georgia is just, it's pretty ripped up right now. With over 110, 115 mile an hour winds. Like I said, I've never seen the damage that we have seen this far inland. We have teams down in the Tampa Bay area right now, and the flooding is, again, it's really, really bad. Compared to what we saw down in Ian, it was very bad, but the flooding wasn't, moving houses like we've seen down in Tampa Bay.
Some of those videos and images that I've seen on social media are absolutely shocking. Can you give us any examples of things that you have seen while you've been down there?
So again, I personally have not been in Florida yet for the storm, but in Georgia, we are seeing full ag farm claims, complete collapses. Um, the commercial shopping centers with the flat roofs just completely peeled back. In Georgia, the trees down are probably the biggest problem right now. It's caused a ton of road destruction or congestion because roads are blocked off, and the power and cell reception. I had to get to a place where there's actually cell reception right now for this, but yeah, it's pretty rough right here right now in Georgia.
Now, I think that you said something really important earlier. You said widespread. The impacts were widespread. That's something that we knew because of the size of this storm, that the impacts were really going to be widespread. Now that you're down on the ground, seeing those impacts firsthand, is this what you expected? Is it different from what you expected out of this storm?
I expected it to an extent. I didn't expect it to do the damage that it caused all the way up into North Georgia, Augusta area, even into South Carolina. Expected the damage in Valdosta and a little bit north of there, but the winds, as we've seen on the hail trace maps and other areas, there was all the small tornadoes that spun off of the hurricane. So really just that was a big problem and, causing the damage that it did.
Okay, so let's talk about your role down there. What is your role as Premier Claims down there? What is Premier Claims playing in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene?
Yeah, so Premier Claims is a PA firm, public adjusting firm. My personal role down here is to kind of get everybody positioned and stationed. How we're helping customers is by reviewing insurance policies and getting the mitigation emergency services started as soon as possible. So we've played a key role in getting the policies reviewed, confirming coverage, and then moving forward with those temp repairs and mitigation as soon as possible.
Now, your company works very, very closely with policyholders. What are some of the biggest challenges that they've faced after this storm?
So we have a number of jobs that are on hold right now. they're on hold for EMS work. So we're trying to confirm who their carrier is. Um, we've gotten them temporarily signed up, no confirmation of coverage. They can't locate their insurance policy. They don't know who their broker is. So that's been, challenging. The lack of cell service has been an issue too. No power. So them being able to check email, they've had to drive north pretty far. Macon, Georgia, still is in good condition. Power there, but that's been one of the larger issues. Without a confirmation of a policy that's in effect, it's tough to make the recommendation and move forward with mitigation when we're working with contracting companies.
And that makes it even more difficult whenever a storm comes. People say, it's okay, I've got my policy online. And then you run into the problem that we've even been dealing with today. There's no service, there's no power in this area.
Right, right.
Eh,
And we, for a lot of the contracting outfits that we work with, they're going to come in without any money down and start all the temp repairs. They just need a confirmation of coverage. They need to make sure that the limits are good, and then we can move forward. And it makes it challenging for us when the contracting companies can't move forward because our clients have a serious need, right? But the contractors need to know if they're going to bill and invoice that insured directly or if it's going back to the insurance company.
Yeah, important on both sides there to have that confirmation of insurance. So we've talked a little bit about this, but I want to go back to what technologies, what tools are you using whenever you're managing post-storm efforts down there?
Probably the biggest ones. I mean, we've definitely used y'all's storm maps. I think that those have been really beneficial. Company cams made it really easy to share photos. We've been using that to upload policies right now because of the cell service. It's really the only way to transfer photos currently with most of the places that we're at. Um, those would probably be like the biggest two, and then our client management system.
Okay. Now, there's been a lot of areas, of course, affected by this storm. What are some of those areas that are most affected? You said Macon, Georgia was a little bit better earlier. And what has been the most common type of loss that has been reported by policyholders down there?
Yeah, in Georgia, it's mostly wind. It's mostly wind damage. Perry, Florida, caught a good amount of wind damage, but down as we get into the Tampa Bay, Clearwater, St. Pete area, it's mostly flooding. There was some gusts from what I've seen, that were in the 70, 80 mile an hour range, but we're not seeing the wind damage down there. It's mainly flooding. Um, those are the types of claims that we're currently working on. Um, so it does make it a little bit easier when there's a clear distinction. There's no overlap between wind and flood. Um, in both states is pretty clear and defined.
Flooding down in Florida, more of that wind up in Georgia. Um, Either way, there's still a ton of claims to be done here. How are you prioritizing claims for your company, at least?
Um, well, is when we're signing anybody up and starting to work on a claim, I mean, we have to document all the damage, take all the photos. If it's the wind claims in Georgia, we're going to pull roof measurements, and we got to get down in Florida as well. Same thing, just on the flood side. So we're getting inside any of the residential properties that we're working on, um, and the commercial properties, and getting docu sketches done and getting estimates in place as quick as possible.
There's going to be a lot to do over the next few weeks in this area. And we know that recovery after any storm is very difficult, especially after one that is so widespread like this, that resources are drawn so thin across state lines. We talked about a few problems that policyholders are having right now. What advice do you have for those that are affected by the storm to help streamline the insurance claims process?
So we always recommend to document your property. several times a year. You never know when a storm's going to hit. So uh, photos are free, even if you're storing them on your iPhone or your Droid. Go snap some photos. The interior, the exterior, those are super beneficial after a loss. And to have a copy of your insurance policy, at least in your email, I would recommend contacting your insurance broker, asking them for a certified copy of the policy. So when something like this does happen, a public adjuster can come in and make the recommendation and move forward with mitigation. Go full steam ahead. But a copy of that the certified copy of the policy is so important. It'd be nice to have printed out too, just in case. If we get into one of these cell service situations. But those would probably be my biggest two recommendations.
Take pictures, document everything, and have a copy of your insurance somewhere handy, if on your cell phone, if not printed out.
Yeah.
Now,
I, I think having your policy reviewed too. We've seen really poorly written policies here in Georgia so far. Um, Down in Florida with the NFIP policies, they're going to be pretty standardized, but get your policies reviewed. Premier Claims reviews insurance policies at no cost for customers. If it's not us, have another public adjuster take a look at your policy and make recommendations.
now we've given a lot of advice to those impacted, but damage isn't consistent across every single property. Some people are going to have impacts from the storm way worse than others are. What advice would you give to someone who's still unsure if they have enough damage to file a claim?
Call a contractor, call a public adjuster. If there's a claims attorney local in the area, come. You can also send pictures. So that's what we do often. A lot of times we can't get to every single place in the country, so we'll provide a company cam link to a client in an area that we can't get to immediately, and they'll upload some photos. Um, they'll send us their policy. We'll take a look and align the photos and the policy, and make recommendations if it's worth filing or not.
Great advice there. And we know that we are going to have other storms in the future. There will always be that next storm. So for people who are watching who may not be impacted by this hurricane, what would you tell them to be prepared as possible for that next storm?
Get your policy, get a certified copy of the policy from your broker or your agent, have it reviewed by a public adjuster, an attorney, claims attorney, um, and document your property. Take photos. Uh, Take a couple hundred photos. They're free, right? They don't cost you anything. And I'd recommend, if you're in Florida, taking those photos in June or July. What we've seen so far on the losses that we've signed is the contents are almost non-existent. So documenting your contents is really important in your home, your furniture, taking a periodically taking an inventory of what you have. The insurance company is going to need invoices, receipts, proof. If it is a total loss and completely wiped out, nothing to be found, it just makes it more difficult for the claims handlers.
Take those pictures before the storm, take the pictures after the storm. That makes it easier for everyone
Yes.
in the process after that storm comes through. Well, Kyle, I appreciate you hopping on here today. Is there anything that you feel like I missed that you feel is important on this Wednesday afternoon?
No, I think you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, we appreciate you hopping on here and giving your time as well. As always, make sure that you follow us for more weather updates here at Hail Trace, and you can follow Premier Claims, their Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, wherever you're watching this from, will be tagged in our post. All right, thanks for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow afternoon at noon for your noon forecast.